Welcome to episode 54.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Who Did That Voice, where we take an in-depth look at voiceovers.
Finally, warmer weather is here, and there is no better time than right now to book your vacation getaway with 3D Travel Company. Head on over to our website at www.whodidthatvoice.co and click the Book Now button on the left-hand side. They give a complimentary quote so you can get an idea of what it will cost to take your summer vacation. For a limited time, Who Did That Voice listeners can receive a Disney gift card for qualifying Disney and Universal trips, booked and traveled by the end of 2017. Hurry and book today so you can travel away.
Welcome to Who Did That Voice, the show where we take an in-depth look at voiceover. And now, here's your host, Trenton Larkin.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today's special guest has voiced Lord Viper on King Arthur and the Knights of Justice.
Warlords, attack! Destroy Camelot!
Today's special guest also voiced Gutsman from the 1994 Mega Man.
Hey, Gutsman, what do you shout when you're cutting down a tree?
Timber?
If you insist.
The last preview we're going to cover today is from Beast Wars Transformers. Today's special guest voiced Optimus Primal, the leader of the Maximals. Maximals, maximize!
Moderate your conflict circuits, Maximals. Remember, these beast forms are to protect us from the long-term effects of the energon fields out there. We may need energon for power, but this is too much of a good thing. Our robot forms will start to short out after a few minutes exposure.
Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Who Did That Voice? Today on the show we have Garry Chalk joining us. Garry, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
It's my pleasure.
Well, Garry, the very first thing we always like to do is just to get a little bit of a background on who our guest is on the show today. So just tell us, who is Garry Chalk, and how did you get into acting, and specifically voice acting?
Let me see. It started out, I've always been a bit of a performer. I was a musical performer and whatnot since I was a kid, and I loved singing. So I was in amateur theater when I was in high school and that sort of thing, but I didn't think it was a career choice. I didn't think people made money from it. You know, I always thought it was only in the movies. But I found out that they do make money from it, and I went back to university about 1973 or 74, and I wanted to teach English and anthropology. That's what I originally went in for. And then I went downstairs to the theater company called Studio 58, which is a pretty well-known and well-respected theater school now. And I saw a show called Mice and Men, and I just fell in love with it. And I went, this is what I want to do. And I signed up, did an audition, and the head of the theater department just said, well, you've got some talent, not much, but some. All right, you're in. So they only take 15 students every term, so they come from across the country. So I said, oh, great, now I have to deal. You know, I have to make it work.
Yeah.
So I went into theater school, and I had I always excelled in voice and singing and stuff, and acting was not bad, pretty good. I did a show, a musical cabaret called Jacques Brel's Alive and Well and Living in Paris. And I got the best reviews of my life from national radio and whatnot on that show. And it kind of launched my career, and I started working in theater as soon as I finished theater school. And one day my teacher came up to me and he says, I have this friend who wants someone to do an advertisement on the radio for their place, which was a nursing home. So I said, okay. So I did the commercial, and they liked it. And I thought, and I got paid for it. And I went, oh, well, this is kind of cool. And so I put together a tape, which was awful. But, I mean, it's embarrassingly awful when I first heard it. But then I was in Ottawa I'd moved there with my wife at the time to, because she got seconded to another company there, and I said, well, I got to go. So I put my feelers out and started getting a commercial or some voiceover stuff for narration and whatnot. And then I did an ad for a company called the Ottawa Citizen, the newspaper. But I couldn't match the guy who originally did it because he was away. And they said, no, this isn't working. And I had no idea about, the different kinds of reads that you have. I was just my usual stentorian self, the Ottawa Citizen for the latest and blah, blah, blah. And they said, no, that's not what we want. So I was kind of devastated, and I turned and I went back to the producer of that commercial at a place called Sound Ventures way back when. I think it's still going. And I said to him, look, if you help me put together a demo tape and explain to me about what all these different kinds of reads are, then I'll do your next commercial for free. So he did. And sure enough, I did his next commercials for free in exchange for this service. And it was for Revenue Canada, of all things. From that tape, I started booking all these commercials, local commercials in Ottawa and Montreal. And then I came to Vancouver and I put together a better tape, and my voice career started. And I started doing tons and tons of commercials, which was really great. And then the animation world came into Vancouver. It was quite new, and I think the very first show they did was a show called Tech Force, which I didn't get. I auditioned for it, but I didn't get it. And then they came up with G.I. Joe, and they wanted voice matches for G.I. Joe. So I watched all the cartoons and I did voice matches, and I ended up getting like 3 or 4 different characters because I could mimic their voices, like Metalhead and Pathfinder and Sci-Fi and Road Pig and all these other ones. So I thought, wow, there is something. This is fun. You know what I forgot before that? How I got into cartoons. While I was in Ottawa, my agent in Ottawa sent me out to a place called Atkinson Film Arts. And this company was famous for, they did the show The Man Who Skied Down Everest. And they did Fritz the Cat and Heavy Metal. And they were going to do this series of cartoons for Nickelodeon called Kenner Classics. And my very, very first cartoon was a show called Hiawatha, and I auditioned for it, but I ended up getting several characters on the show, and I got paid for each character, and I went, well, this is pretty nifty. And it was, the old-fashioned way of doing cartoons, and I think it's still out there somewhere on the internet. Then after that, I did voicing aliens on Alien Star Lost and some other things for CJOH, which is a television station in Ottawa. And then I came out to Vancouver and did the same thing, started doing commercials. And then cartoons came. And my first cartoon in Vancouver, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Barbie and the Rockers. Was the first Barbie cartoon, and I just had small parts on it as radio announcer or show announcer and whatnot. And that went really well with Marcia Goodman from Deke Animation. And then went off to do G.I. Joe. I said, well, okay. And I booked this cartoon called G.I. Joe and did all these parts. And then Captain N, the Games Master. And then Kissy Fur and Beanie and Cecil and Camp Candy, and then He-Man Masters of the Universe. And I went, oh, this is kind of groovy. And they gave me the part of He-Man, and I didn't think much of it, but it was a pretty big deal. That sort of launched my career. And then after that, I just started doing cartoons all the time for years and years, thousands of them. And that's when I came up with with G.I. Joe, with Double Dragon, with Mummies, what was the other one? Van Helsing, Conan, Conan the Barbarian, T-Rex, Extreme Dinosaurs, Extreme G.I. Joe, Salty's Playhouse. Oh, just I can't remember them all, but I did that, and that's what happened. I just sort of started auditioning for it and started getting them, and then I was sort of, going 50-50 between cartoons and my on-camera stuff and doing on camera, and that's how it happened. And then I just became a voiceover guy full time and did that for 20 years, over 20 years, 30 years. And well, the last 5 or 6 years I haven't been doing much in the way of cartoons, the odd thing here and there, but I think I'm getting too old because most of the cartoon voices these days are kind of small. And they're hard to restrain for any length of time. So I'm used to doing, the master voice is not a toy. So, demon, I'm used to doing those kinds of voices.
Yeah.
And then the Transformer franchise, that went on for quite a long time. And that's it.
Yeah.
I'm still going.
Well, you mentioned doing live action, and I know you actually voiced one of the Warriors of Virtue, I believe.
I did, yeah.
Which, for anyone who hasn't seen that, you need to check it out.
That's the one with all they were camels and
kangaroos or something.
Or kangaroos,
like ninja kangaroos.
Yes. Well, funny story with that. The guy who directed that was named Wu. I think something Wu. I can't remember his
That sounds
name.
about right. I remember.
Chinese fellow who was quite fun. I really enjoyed him, and then he ended up directing Freddy versus Jason.
It's Ronnie Yu.
Ronnie Yu.
Yeah, Ronnie Yu.
Ronnie Yu. He did that, and then he did Freddy versus Jason,
Okay.
the movie, and I ended up getting a lead on that movie as well with him. He was very funny. See, you go down here. You are scared, but you're not a scared. You're more concerned. So when you come down the stairs, you see the guy. And what that moment? You're not fat. You are funny. So here we go. And I said, look, I say we got to keep this thing contained. Every scene. He goes, I know, like a joke. We see it contained. Contain this, contain that. You contain everything. It's a joke. It's a joke. And I went, okay, cool. But it was quite funny. Ronnie Yu, what a character. I just adored him.
Well, he sounds like he was a fun director.
Oh yeah, it was just crazy, and they had the interpreter there going back and forth. It'd be half Chinese, half English, half Chinese, half English. And then, so, well, what he want you to go over here and do this and do that. And I said, yeah, that's what I want.
Oh wow, sounds like a good time on set.
Oh, it was. And since then, I've just, I think I've done over 100 movies, at least 100. I'm not sure. But, a lot of like The Fly 2, Freddy versus Jason, Tomorrowland, Godzilla, Gargantua or something. What the hell was it? There was, I wish I had my IMDb in front of me and I could just sort of, rattle them off. But suffice to say, I've been working pretty well nonstop for the last 30 years. So.
Absolutely, Gary. You've definitely done a lot of different shows and movies and animations. I believe you were also in The Watchmen.
I was, yes. I was the general.
Wow. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that one.
I remember that. So, well, the casualty rate's going to be about 25%, but most of the fallout's going to land across the border into Mexico, so we can deal with that. I'll never forget it. No, it was great fun.
And Tomorrowland was a fantastic movie, so I absolutely loved that one.
Yeah, I had the smallest part in it, but it was in the trailer. So I had the most views, like 7 million or something like that.
It's Garry Chalk.
Yeah, look at that. He's in that movie. Yeah, it's the only thing I'm in. That little scene. But it sure was fun.
Yeah. Well, Disney did a really good job on that film for sure. It definitely was fantastic. Well, one of the shows that you've been a part of that I grew up loving was Mega Man, and that came out in '94. And you played one of my favorite bad guys on the show, Gutsman.
Oh, you're talking about Gutsman.
Yeah.
Gutsman, my favorite character. Oh, yes, I remember him very well.
What was it like working with that cast, Gary?
Well, let's see who was in there. There was Terrell Rothery was in it. Scott McNeil was in it. Jim Burns was in it. Myself. Who else was in that show?
Mega Man was played by Ian James Corlett.
Ian Corlett.
Yeah.
James Corlett. Yeah. I think Doug Parker was in there too. There was a few of us in that show.
Yeah.
But that was fun. We were working with, I think that was the time we were working with Wally Burr.
Yeah, Wally Burr did a lot of different things back in that era.
Well, he's suffering right now. He had a stroke about 3 weeks ago or a month ago.
Oh, no.
And he's in bad health right now, but he must be 90 almost.
I hadn't heard that about him having the stroke. That's really sad to hear.
Yes, well, you can give a shout out to your fans and your viewers to send them good healing thoughts, because that's what we've been doing. I was talking to his wife last month about Wally, because I worked a lot with Wally, and I was one of the few people that I really got along with him very well, because he would go after you and he would say, "No, you got to go so like this, the crescendo," and you just do it. And then he would go, but he would get so frustrated sometimes because he can hear it in his head, but he can't hear it when somebody else says it. So it's a bit mad. Anyway, so, it would make for some very interesting sessions and long sessions. But I did Conan with him and Sergeant Slaughter and Mega Man, Bucky O'Hare in the Toad Wars.
Yeah, you played Commander Doggish.
Dogstar.
Dogstar, I'm sorry.
Dogstar. Yeah, so I was going after these like jelly and cheese bombs, Bucky my lad. Yeah, I did that and Al Negator, and yeah, I remember those. I had my little mammal. Yeah, it was fun.
That was a classic show. Bucky O'Hare's theme song was really energetic and fun too.
I love the Bucky O'Hare. And it's Bucky O'Hare. Oh,
The theme songs from that era were fantastic. G.I. Joe, all of those. Transformers.
I just love that. I used to do a blues thing of Transformers. Transformers, more than meets the eye. Transformers, more than meets the eye. Robots in the skies. I can't do it now, but I do it sometimes just for a laugh on stage.
Hey, that's fantastic, man.
Yeah, but Wally, a great fun guy. I remember all the little drawings he used to draw all over the script to show, action or emotion or whatever people were doing. It was like Egyptian hieroglyphics all over your script. But it was fun. I was talking to Dan Galvezan from Gen 1 Transformers in Oklahoma. We were talking about that.
That's awesome.
It's quite funny. And Greg Berger.
That's fantastic. Well, we've kind of briefly touched on Transformers. The one show that I think most people remember you from is Beast Wars, when you played Optimus Primal, which was a fantastic series.
So I thought so.
Well, I loved the different spin on it with the animals and the creatures and stuff. Tigertron was another one of my favorites. I loved Cheetor and Rat Trap and Rhino. I think it was
Rhinox.
Rhinox, yeah. But that whole group was man, that was a fantastic show.
It was a fantastic cast to work with. That was with Doug Parker and Venus Terzo and Scott McNeil, Jim Burns, Richard Newman, Ian Corlett. Who else was in there? David Kay, Tigertron, Jim, Blue Man Kuma. Yeah, we had fun doing that show. And Sue Blue was directing it as well. And yeah, it was a great one. I liked it. I liked the cast. We had a really nice rapport between us, because we recorded everything ensemble.
Okay.
So we were all in the room together, which sometimes could be a bit of a mistake, given that we'd have a lot of fun. One time, Scotty fell asleep on the floor in the studio, and we covered him with scripts.
Wow, you guys were ornery.
Yes, we were ornery, but you know what? We had a hell of a lot of fun.
Which is, you want work to be fun, and it sounds like you guys had a blast doing what you were doing. So,
well, I'll tell you, they were that decade, the decade between 87 and 2000 before 9/11, that decade was probably the most exciting decade of my life. The best time I ever had in my life was that time. I mean, it was busy. I mean, it was crazy busy. I work every day, every single day, and it was a bit wild, but man, oh man, that was living. I was just alive every hour. Sometimes I remember working sometimes 20 hours a day. I'd start cartoons at 8 in the morning, 8 or 9 in the morning. I'd finish at 3, run home, brush my teeth, hop in a car, drive to set, work on set until 4 in the morning, get up at 8, go to the studio, do cartoons, try and grab an hour of sleep, then rush off to set and work till 4 in the morning. I did that for a couple of weeks. I was a bit of a crazy man.
Wow, that sounds like an intense schedule, Gary.
It was an intense schedule, but hey, paid for the house, so
it was all worth it. All worth it.
Yeah.
Well, after you got to do Beast Wars, you did get to come back and reprise your role as the essence of what Optimus Primal was, as actual Optimus Prime, in both, in all three Transformers Armada, Transformers Energon, and Transformers Cybertron.
Yes.
So that was fantastic to see you come back and play that lead role of the Autobots.
Well, the funny thing about those shows is I wanted to play them like Primal, but they wanted me to play him like Prime, like the Peter Cullen voice, and I tried that sort of. I don't know if I succeeded. Some people say I didn't do justice to Primal or to Prime, and I guess I just had a misconception. I thought they wanted to have the Primal voice rather than the Prime voice, but it still worked out. We came up with a balance between the two. Some people liked them, some people didn't. But that's okay. You can't please everybody.
Well, to be absolutely honest with you, as a kid, I couldn't really distinguish the two when I was younger. I mean, I can tell now as I've gotten older, but your voice for Primal was very different. But when you did Prime, I thought it was pretty dead on. So,
well, thank you very much for that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, what were you going to say, Gary?
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, a show that you've been in that people may not be as familiar with is King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, which was one of my absolute all-time favorites because it was like superheroes combined with medieval times. And you played Lord Viper, Sir Phil, and Sir Brick. So those three main characters on the show.
Yeah, Sir Brick. I came on to Sir Brick later on because the guy who originally played it had left or something. So I took over, and he was kind of like the big old Palooka kind of guy, if I can remember. I just can't remember the voice right now, but I remember Lord Viper. Destroy them! Kill them all! Yes, I remember that. That was actually a pretty darn good show.
It was fantastic.
I like that. Yeah, they still air it somewhere.
I hope. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I love that show. They need to bring it back. I've actually wanted them to make a live action version of that show.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I think that would be very, very cool.
It'd make a fantastic feature film, and you should totally be in it.
And I should totally be in it.
You could be Merlin.
Merlin? You think?
So another show that you played on that was actually one that I was kind of fascinated with and watched a lot as a kid was The Littlest Pet Shop, and you played Sarge. He was a little like...
Bernice! You know I love you, Bernice. Come on. Oh, yeah, I remember that.
That was a great show.
With a great big kind of General Patton kind of voice.
Yeah.
He was in love with Bernice, who I think was a giant Persian cat, or was either a Persian cat or a boa constrictor. I can't remember.
I don't
but
remember.
I know it was a very odd relationship.
Yeah,
I think it was a big Persian cat.
The big odd couple.
Yeah. But now they've done it again but they have a whole different breakdown from that one. I like the original one better than this new one I've seen.
Yeah, when the new one came out, I was going, dang, I was like, I remember there being a show when I was younger called Littlest Pet Shop, but it's been so long since I've seen it. And I was pretty sure that was a remake of the original. So
it was, yeah. But they had the characters were all different.
Yeah, they'd all kind of changed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I hope you've been enjoying today's episode, part 1, with Garry Chalk, the voice of Optimus Primal and so many other amazing characters. Please tune in next Friday to hear part 2. We'll see you then. You know, a question you might ask yourself is, where can I listen to Who Did That Voice? That's an excellent question. You can hear us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and our website at www.whodidthatvoice.co. Click the episodes tab and listen away.